Hey guys, so I saw this very interesting post yesterday on Twitter. This guy, the Hellenist that I follow, he looks a Greek guy like me. I mean, look at that face. Okay, we're pretty similar with the beard and stuff. So obviously, we're both as biased as each other, but it's a wonderful thing to be Greek, to have Greek heritage and have a very strong pro-Greek bias. I mean, hey, who else is going to defend Greek culture and civilization if it's not actually genetic Greeks, okay? So, he said he did the thing that I do to others. A lot of people, like all my life I've been told that, oh, you put it in a way that I kind of knew that, but I didn't know really to put it into words, but you put it into words for me, and thank you. Like, I've gotten that millions of times on my Facebook posts and stuff. But this time, because I'm a writer, so I know how to sort of put concepts into words to help people understand them better. But this guy now did it to me. So this is why I was compelled to make a reaction video to this. All right. So the basic thesis is that Greece is the true template for Western civilization, not Christianity. And he's making a case for, that's why I titled the video, Christianity versus Hellenism. And I've deliberately made Christianity red and Hellenism blue, which is to say to make the Hellenism look good, because it's the blue, which is, the color denotes, positivity, whereas red is like, red danger, Okay, so yeah, basically he's saying that it's BS when people especially people like Jordan Peterson and so on, a lot of these famous intellectuals, Western intellectuals, are on about, Christianity is what created the West as we know it today. I'm like, do none of you people have access to history books? Like, even something as simple as Wikipedia, for all its faults, at least it's going to give you the basics on history. It obfuscates other things, but like the stuff about, you just Google Greece for 5 minutes, you'll see. It existed at least 500 years before Christianity. Okay, so the template was there, all right? Especially in the Hellenistic age, which is about 300 BC, during the period of Alexander, when he when he went and took over all those regions and spread the Greek way of life and thinking in those areas, and made it, Greek became the lingua franca and so on. And then Alexandria in Egypt became a massive seat of learning and syncretism, and they had the great library of Alexandria, which of course Christians burnt down, of course. Yeah, so basically what we think of, what we know of now as the West, it was there already. Like what happened 300 years before the advent of Christ and Christianity. So I have no idea why people keep saying and keep thinking and keep saying that without Christianity there would be no West today. Okay, it might be slightly different without Christianity, sure. And there were some positive things that came out of Christianity, like separation of church and state, a greater focus on natural law and things like that. Roman law, canon law, okay, it comes from the church. I mean, these are good things. But to say that the West, in totality, would not exist practically at all if it wasn't for Christianity, I mean, that's preposterous, okay? I mean, it's like that ridiculous statement that the British band Oasis made when they had come out and said that we're bigger than the Beatles, or we're going to be bigger than the Beatles. It's exactly the same. I mean, because if you make the analogy, the correct analogy, that Greece is like the Beatles of Western civilization, like basically the template that started it all, that everyone copied afterwards, that will never happen again. There will never be a culture, a civilization as successful that did so much in such a little time and in such a little geographical location. I mean, I know I'm biased and I'm proud, but so many non-Greek people admit this readily, okay? And there are intellectual giants compared to me, okay? true scholars. I mean, the world knows this, you know. So, and it's like, you know, the West now, the modern West, like the whatever Europe has been doing in the past 500 years, you know, particularly like England and Northern European nations and stuff. Them coming and saying, "Oh, we are the West, and it's Christianity and the West, you see, and Catholicism and Christianity, Western Christianity." Completely sweeping the role of Greece under the rug. It's like it is the equivalent of Oasis coming out and saying we're bigger than the Beatles. It's ridiculous. You're embarrassing yourselves, the people that believe this and state this online, especially the intellectuals like Peterson. It's very sad because it's like my guy, my friend. You're an intellectual, okay? Some people say he's like the poor man's intellectual, but whatever. He's a professor, you know. He's a smart guy. He's well read, and he almost never mentions Greece. It's always Jerusalem, not Greece for him, you know. So basically, this guy here is saying that you know Greece is the template or the West, and there's no West without it. And this thing of Christianity being the West or creating the West is false. Okay, and he breaks it down very nicely here. So, Christianity's secret weapon is hijacking the moral high ground. Okay, convincing, i.e., convincing people that Christians do it better when it comes to morality. Okay, because those pagans, you know, because like pagan is interchangeable with Greek. Okay. Because the monotheists back in the day thought the Greeks thought of the Greeks as being pagans, right? But the Greeks are like the archetypal pagans of back in the day. So when you're saying Christianity versus Greece, it's basically monotheism versus authentic paganism. Okay, not the pagans that are LARPing as pagans today. You know, all those people that are obsessed with runes and this and that. True paganism is Hellenism, all right? So it's a beautiful religion. The whole, you know, the richness of the myths, and you know, so many deities that like there was a deity for every imaginable thing, every possible thing you can imagine, right? Such a rich tradition, and eliminating all that and focusing on just one Godhead, one supreme being, that's boring. All right, it's very limiting. Okay, it sounds like a controlled structure to me, like a bit of a spiritual like a conspiracy to constrict us, to restrict us spiritually, if you know what I'm saying. They also lied to us about reincarnation, deliberately so, in the Abrahamic religions. They're the only major religions that do that, deliberately lie about reincarnation. But that's for another video, probably for another channel, for my other more spiritually inclined channel, my original channel. So Christians give you, but just giving you a bit of a teaser, a bit of a hint about the stuff I also talk about. Christians give you just enough morality, marriage, modesty, prayer, community. These are not bad things, but I mean, it's just enough, you know, to make you think their religion is virtuous. Then they smuggle in the Jewish slave morality, meekness, enemy love, non-violence, self-abasement, to get you to self-destruct. I mean, that might be a little bit extreme to say that it was done deliberately, you know, smuggle in. That suggests that somebody planned this. It could just be well be the case that, you know, Christianity was the premier Piscean Age religion. The Piscean Age is now over, or it's starting to, you know, it's the beginning of the end of it, basically, the past few years, particularly after Pluto went into Aquarius 2 years ago. Yes, people, I'm talking about astrology because it's a real thing, by the way. So, the Christianity, yeah, was a Piscean Age. Like if you look up the traits of Pisces, it's just all about, you know, self-abnegation and just giving to other people and just not caring about yourself, self-sacrifice, that type of thing. All of it, every one of those things, you know, it's like you can make a bullet point of things that match exactly with how Christianity basically is, like how Christians behave, what Christianity, Christian morality wanted to instill in its believers, okay, or in the nations that where it became the main religion, okay, the official religion. So it's just how it was, but now it's no longer, okay. The Aquarian age is a different thing. It's like a high technology. This is why we got the AI explosion recently. Space age, spacefaring civilizations. Like this is like Elon Musk is, going to take us to Mars eventually. He's taking the first steps this year, I believe. He's going to send an unmanned craft for the first time in 2026, and then he'll keep doing it in, I think, intervals of 2 or 2.5 years. I think you can send a ship to Mars every 2 years or so, according to how the orbits match up with the Earth, something like that. So eventually we'll get there. We'll create like a galactic space age civilization, the stuff we see in Star Trek. So yeah, it's a different ball game now. So the Christian thing, I mean, a lot of people are these Christian bros who think that all spirituality and all occultism is evil. Just because it's outside the postage stamp consensus of, I stole that from David Icke, the postage stamp reality of Christianity. I mean, it's so limited what you are allowed to believe and accept in Christianity. I mean, like I said before, Abrahamism, just the fact alone that there's flat out lying through their teeth about reincarnation not being real, I'm done. Just because of that, I'm like, no. Abrahamism, get the hell away from me. I mean, lying about the most fundamental metaphysical reality of all, the most important thing upon which everything rests, when we're talking about metaphysics and spirituality, it's the fact that reincarnation is a fact. But they lie about it. So just right there and then, you just know that it's a trap. Like somebody's doing this on purpose, and I don't trust them. It's like they're trying to sell you beachfront property in the Arizona desert. Like that's really what it is. Like when they're lying about reincarnation, you're like, what? But it's real. Why would you lie about something like that? You must be doing it on purpose because you want to F me up somehow, okay? To keep me trapped in the loop of coming back here again and again or something. They want us, it's like the Matrix movie, right? They want us to not wake up and take the red pill. So, anyway, but that's an aside, that's a parenthesis.
The final war is over. An ancient evil rises, and the battle for humanity's soul has just begun.
Meekness, enemy love, non-violence, these are all Piscean traits, because Christianity was the Piscean age, the official religion of the Piscean age. Jesus was the solar avatar of the Piscean age, okay? He's still applicable, okay? I'm not anti-Christ, per se. I've had healing miracles and so on with Jesus. You can even after the Piscean age is completely gone, you can still pray to Jesus and have the whatever miracles, whatever things you can get through that. It'll still work 1,000 years from now, okay? But I'm just saying, other things are going to come from now on because we are in a different age, okay? So, and part of it is the fact that people are writing these posts and people are making reactions to these posts, like me. All the things I say in my novel, or whatever, or any of my non-fiction stuff, or my Facebook posts or Twitter posts, so it's okay. It's just different vibes, different times now. So people are thinking differently. It's like the cosmic energy is are affecting us. It's like the weather, right? Like the weather is like a lower, more 3D thing that you can sense. That you can sense the wind or the rain in your face, because you can sense it with your five senses, all right, with your touch, with your hearing. You can hear the thunder and stuff. You can hear the wind, but you can hear the rain when it's raining outside, right? But that's like the lower level, the animal stuff, like the matrix stuff, the five senses. That's nothing. That's like 1% of our total awareness, or whatever it is. So there's also like the astrological weather, like the cosmic currents. Wherever the planets are situated at any given moment, there are particular energies that they bathe the planet with. And that's like the astrological forecast. There's the weather forecast, but then there's the astrological forecast. I mean, it's like on an energetic level where you don't necessarily feel it with your five senses, but there's certainly an effect happening, right? So, the Muggles don't understand anything beyond the five senses, but who cares about someone who honestly, who cares about people who don't perceive anything beyond the five senses? That's like being an NPC. That you don't count if you don't understand anything beyond the five senses. So I'm not even going to try to justify the fact that, how are you going to prove to me that there's energies beyond the five senses? I'm not even going to engage with an argument like that. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to debate an NPC. So it's everyone knows there's things beyond the five senses. Everyone, meaning the non-NPCs. Okay. So I am a bit harsh on this, but hey, it's the NPCs that were responsible for us going through that ordeal that we went through during the COVID lockdowns and stuff. Because not enough people stood up and said no, because most of the NPCs were like, oh, okay, if the man on TV says it, it must be true. That's, they affected everyone else as well. It could have gotten really, really bad. We could have ended up in gulags and everything. It could have been Bolshevik Russia 2.0 on a global scale. That's what they wanted to do with that. Anyway, they didn't manage to, but it got close. And it's the NPCs because they went along with it. So I'm not going to mince words with the NPCs. You're an NPC if you only understand the five senses. I'm not interested in speaking to people like that. Okay? So my videos are going to find only the people who are ready to go to the next level and understand some good stuff. We're not talking about the five sense scientism bullshit here. All right. So that's why because the astrological thing is real. It's like the universal cosmic currents that are affecting the planet at any given moment or day. Also, this applies to astrological ages, right? It applies like on a more macro scale, like the age lasts for roughly 2,000 years. I mean, it's 2,160 or whatever it is, but we'd say roughly 2,000. And it has a particular character, okay? The one we're just exiting now is the Piscean, like I said, and Christianity was the major expression of people's religious thought and so on. So then a religious structure organically was an organic outgrowth of that because people wanted it, so they formed churches and stuff and eventually became this juggernaut, and it was organized and hierarchical and everything, and that became initially the Catholic and then the Orthodox split with the Eastern and Western Roman Empire split. And then they had like 1,000 other sub-franchises. Like there's so many versions of Christianity now, right? But that was the Piscean age. Now it's the Aquarian age, all right? So different energies, cosmic energies are hitting the planet from the central sun and so on, okay? And these affect humans on this planet in subtle ways, you know, the way you feel, the way you feel about things, think about things, and attitudes, politics as well, because everything applies. It's not only spirituality that is affected during an astrological age. It's everything all across the board, you know, politics, because an Aquarius, like if you look at the traits of an Aquarian, a person who's like an Aquarius, I believe it's the most independent sign, like fiercely independent. So in politics, that would translate, like on a collective level, it would translate into populist, nationalist type of sentiment. Okay, so this is why the past few years we're starting to see that trend. Okay, so that's going to become the norm in this age. So we're seeing the early signs of that. That's why, I mean, I had a post years ago on Facebook, and I titled it Donald Trump is the Aquarian Age president, because he created the template for what's to come. Like, nobody's going to be having TDS 100 years from now. They're going to be like, because every politician is going to be like him. All right, so he set the template for the new age. So that's one thing. That's another major thing that's going to change, and that's why we're seeing that now happening in a big way. These are all manifestations of the energies of the new age, because it's like the energies are hitting us differently now, the cosmic energies. So people are having different thoughts and feelings and behaviors. Okay, and we're seeing different trends and you know, different technologies coming out. You know, like the Aquarian thing is high space age radical technology. You know, like free energy type. You know, think Nikola Tesla, the kind of stuff he was making, that type of technology. That's a very Aquarian age type of thing, and we're seeing this stuff more and more coming out now. Robotics, AI, space flight, you know, space age type of stuff, going to Mars with Elon Musk, all that. These are all hallmarks of the Aquarian age. So also at the same time, we're going to have like a different understanding of divinity. Okay, like the Piscean age model, which was Christianity, is not going to apply, no longer going to apply. It's going to die down more and more. Okay, it's going to diminish as the decades go by, right? So, yeah, that's what this was. Meekness, that's what triggered me to talk about the astrology stuff. This meekness, enemy love, non-violence, self-abasement, these are all Piscean traits. For those of you who had the misfortune to not ever study astrology, just look up the traits of the Pisces. You know, a person who's a Pisces, look up their traits. Or if you know someone who's a Pisces, you'll see that they're very much like this, you know, very forgiving and stuff, and it's just, you know, it's almost like Pisces gone bad is like SJWism on steroids, okay? So that's what Christianity was. That's what Jesus was. It was like the original SJW, you know, love your enemies. What the hell is that? I mean, but it worked at the time because he was a heart-based avatar. A heart-based God man, you know. Otherwise, like the Buddha was like based on the mind, but Jesus resonated to the heart, and it was all about loving people, forgiving, and all that stuff. So it is what it is. I mean, it's not bad in itself, but it's just not for now. For now, we need a revival of Greece. Okay, so this guy's very right, very correct for saying so in this post. So Christians, I'm going for time. 25 minutes. Christians claim to be the only force against the bane of liberalism, holding the line between degenerate progressives fighting for God and morality in a world of licentiousness and Satan worshippers, where really the truth of it is that Jesus was the original woke person. All right. So this is why Hellenism poses an existential threat to Christianity. Hellenism undercuts all of the Christian moral arguments and reveals the Greeks as true keepers of divine morality, of the natural laws of heroism and temperance. See, that's the thing with Greeks, it's always like excellence and heroism. You could almost say that Christianity is a feminine approach to life, whereas the Greek / European mind is the masculine impulse, okay, of excellence, of hierarchy, of like even the way they ran democracy in Athens. It was very much akin to the idea that the founding fathers in America had of a constitutional republic led by competent landowning men who had done military service and stuff and who were highly educated and whatever, elite men, basically. That's exactly how, well, not identically, but like those elements were the same in ancient Athens, right? So that's why that civilization was so great, and it was so enduring, Greek civilization, because they had it right. They had all the ingredients right, and we've forgotten a lot of it now. All right. So the Greeks are the true keepers of divine morality, of the natural laws of heroism and temperance. Okay, it was all about heroism, all these stories of Achilles and Hercules and on and on. Whereas the Christians, it was like, oh, just love thy enemy and blah blah blah. It was just like this self-deprecating, feeling sorry for yourself, forgiving. A guy kills your daughter or something and you have to forgive him because you're a good Christian. We even see it today on the news. People doing that. Okay? Literally going to court, and then, the news people, the fake news interviews them after the hearing, and they say, well, I as a good Christian man, I need to forgive the killer of my daughter. It's like, are you out of your mind? This is what Christianity does to a man. All right? To a person, whatever. So, here he tells us the Greeks were the ones who birthed Western civilization, not the Christians. Please tell Jordan Peterson, because he seems to have not gotten that memo for some reason. He seems to have read half the books written on Earth, because he's a speed reader apparently, and he's read all these books and he retains a lot of information, like he said in his interviews. But has he not come across the true importance that ancient Greece played in the formation of this thing we now call the West? All he does is talk about how Christianity was responsible for that. I'm like, do you even know who Pythagoras and Socrates and Aristotle and Plato were? Do you? I know I'm biased. I mean, I'm talking like a Greek that's like, oh, you must constantly talk about Greeks. You must constantly talk highly of Greeks all the time. Okay. I have a little bit of that, but it's not like, I'm not lying. It's like criticizing Paul McCartney if Paul McCartney came out and said Beatles is the best pop band ever, and they started it all. And then it's like going and criticizing him of being biased because he's a member of the Beatles. He's just saying the truth. Everyone else says the same about the Beatles, and equally everyone else who knows something about history says the same thing about Greece. I am biased as a Greek person, but if I was born of another race and I had the personality that I have now, i.e. being a fair person and saying the truth whether it suits me or not, I think I would have readily admitted it and said, yeah, the Greeks, they are the source of Western civilization, because look, it says it here in this book or in this article. This is true. Okay. Like, for example, I have a hard-on for the Germans for some reason. I don't know. We're supposed to kind of be, kind of not really get along with the Greeks and the Germans, but I don't care. Somehow I admire them. I'm like, okay, they are kind of like the modern Greeks, okay, as far as Europe is concerned. So I'm admitting that. I'm not supposed to as a Greek, because there's a bit of a beef between the two countries for various reasons. But give credit where it's due, okay? And in this case, please give the credit to the Greeks and not to Christianity. So, there we go. This one. This probably is the most important sentence. The Christians were the Jewish subversives that flooded the Roman Empire with a false promise of eternal life after Rome was increasingly weakened by decadence and effeminacy. Exactly. I mean, look, saying that it was a plot per se, I don't know. Maybe it was just religion of the desert people versus the religion of the sea people, which the Greeks are sea people, so a particular tribe evolving for thousands of years in the same environment produces very specific, distinct traits and ways of thinking, ways of behavior, okay? A very particular worldview. So the desert tribes there would be something different in their DNA. We're living for many generations, living in the desert there, would create a very different, through evolutionary biology, the DNA of the people that have been there for like many generations would be completely different to people who have been like in Central Europe or in Greece, which was a civilization that's surrounded by water, by sea, a seafaring civilization, a maritime civilization, as opposed to a desert culture. And they would have radically different views on religion, on what, because God, especially back in those days, 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, people tended to anthropomorphize God, like create him, like make this image, make God into like a human image that conformed to how they thought as a tribe. So the Jewish God is different to the Greek gods, is different to the German ones. But then again, the German gods, the Nordic gods and the Greek gods are not very different at all. They're pretty much like cousin concepts because it's the same continent. The Greeks are slightly different because they're sea peoples, whereas Central Europe is kind of like surrounded by I don't know. Maybe the Germanics are forest people, okay, whereas the Greeks were like sea people. But the Jews and the Arabs were desert people, so that's very different to the other two. All right. So we're speaking specifically of the Middle Easterners and the Greeks now. It's like oil and water. The different conceptions that these two tribes would have of what their understanding of divinity, of deity is. Hence why you get sharply diverging religious systems, okay? So then it's almost like Christianity, like the desert religion, the Abrahamic desert religions, usurped the European mind. They spiritually colonized us, and it's not something that should have happened. Like, it's like an aberration. It's something that in my opinion, should not have happened. Okay? Not that Christianity is completely bad, like all through and through bad, but we would have been better off had we been on a hypothetical, on a different timeline where Christianity had never existed or it had never flourished as much, or perhaps not caught on in Greece and in Europe. Okay, so I don't know where these people are coming from. The people that think that the West is Christianity, that's inane. It's completely it's stupid. It's ignorant. It betrays a vast historical ignorance, or maybe it shows something even more sinister, like people deliberately wanting to obfuscate the truth about the ancient Greek origins of the West. I don't know why they would want to, like, if there are people out there, players that are doing so deliberately, public intellectuals and so on. I don't know. And this is not that kind of video. We can explore it at another time, I guess. But having access to all the knowledge at our fingertips now with the internet, and not comprehending that ancient Greece is the actual origin of the West, as opposed to Christianity. I don't know. Are these people so brainwashed that they can't even differentiate? They can't tell what's in front of their eyes? I don't know. So he's saying that, Rome was increasingly weakened by decadence and effeminacy. We can get into that in other videos, of how Rome became more and more effeminate, became more woke, basically. And it's kind of like that weak men create hard times kind of thing. They grew fat, because they had they had too much success, similar to the West and America today. And when it becomes too easy for a civilization, at some point they fall. The barbarians come in because the barbarians are tougher, they're hungrier, so to speak. So they have more of an incentive to be more disciplined, to fight harder, to think on their feet. Necessity is the mother of invention. So if you have no necessities, because everything's taken care of, all your material needs are taken care of, and then some, then the invention factor is going to fall more and more. Okay, it's going to lessen with each generation. And now this is why a lot of Western people are so demoralized and apathetic and frankly retarded today. Not just the women, but it's mostly them. But it's a lot of it is the men as well. Like all these betas, they've got nothing to live for, because we've had it too easy for many decades now, post World War II, So, I mean, he might be a bit over the top here, but really, Christianity is the most insidious disease Western civilization has ever faced, because it cloaks itself in all the beauty and glory of moral virtue, while hiding a venomous snake, which is to say, slave morality. Which is correct. Slave morality. It is a slave morality. I mean, like I said before, this is why I had to mention the astrological ages thing, that angle, because for the Piscean age, this probably was the thing that people on the planet resonated to. Now we don't, so we don't need it now. This is why this criticism of Christianity is happening everywhere now. Not now, it's been happening for decades, but it's going to reach a crescendo from now on. It's going to reach a point where it will be impossible to ignore. And the Christian bros are going to eventually die out, or they're just going to end up being just a small little, they're going to be in their own little bubble, thinking that they're always right, and that everything outside of Christianity is satanic and occultism. Occult only means hidden. Look at the etymology of the word. It literally just means hidden knowledge. It's the hidden knowledge that the elites don't want us to know. So it's not black. There's black magic and there's white magic. It depends on how you use it. It's like a knife. A knife is not evil. Just because somebody used it to kill someone doesn't mean that when you go and buy a knife at the supermarket that you have the intention of doing the same. It's just you're buying a knife. You might just use it for cooking. All right? So occultism is just knowledge, secret knowledge. So these people, they're not going to be, like, Christianity is not going to have this amazing revival that people think it's going to have. No. I'm just saying the truth. I'm not being anti-Christian. I'm certainly not anti-Christ per se, not at all. But the religion itself, no, it will not last. We need a revival of Greece, of ancient Greece, not of Christianity. Liberalism is already self-destructing. That means Western Civ is at a crossroads, and here we go. The crossroads. Like I said, we need Greece. Do we return to Christianity and watch America and Europe follow the same fate as Rome? Which is to say, 1,000 years of dark ages filled with plague, famine, war, religious terror. Or do we ascend to the form of the good, re-embrace the blessed gods of Olympus, get in sync with the eternal current of the cosmos, and fulfill our destiny as masters of the galaxy? Okay? Yeah, there's no way to you can't have it both ways. It's either if we want the West to go to the next level, we need to jettison Christianity. We need to forget this whole the West was created by Christianity, or it wouldn't be what it is today without Christianity in any case. Or especially this Judeo-Christian bullshit, definitely that we need to get rid of it yesterday, because it's not real. First of all, it's not real. Just because my biggest, my greatest ideal in life is truth. Truth for me, capital T, comes first before anything else. All right, so I object to the Judeo-Christian thing. Firstly, just simply because it's not true. That's all. But secondly, and 10 times worse, is that it's toxic and destructive to America, because it's the only country ever in history that's had that peculiar Judeo-Christian idea. Nobody says anything like that in Europe. Nobody says anything remotely similar in any of the Anglosphere, you know, in the fake countries of Australia, the pretend countries of Australia and Canada and so on. What are these people even doing there? Listen, ladies and gentlemen, these are not countries. People that may live there watching are like, outrage, why is he saying it's a fake country? Because it is. It's just basically a collection of roads and houses and schools and shopping centres and factories. That's it. That doesn't mean it's a country. It's just a place where they made roads and they put parks and factories and shopping centres, and people just get up every day and go to work and then just come home and sleep. That's not a country. I mean, it's the same setup in a gulag. I mean, they're very pretty looking gulags, but they don't tell you they're gulags, and you're like, oh well, it's a country, I'm free and shit. Sure. Do you have a First Amendment? Second? You know. Do you have this anarchic spirit that we have here in Greece, where, you know, we're always like this is almost our default permanent reaction to anything the government says or does in Greece is this. It's been this for 2,500 years. France is very much like that. France is probably the second worst offender in that department. I do love the Americans though, because they are literally the first country in history that was founded on this, to the King, what was his name? King Henry, was it? You know, it was amazing. That's why I'm so attracted to America and Americans. But the rest of the Anglosphere, anyway. But that's like a side note on the Anglosphere being fake. But aside from America, which is an exception to the rule, but America has been subverted, however, through this Judeo-Christian thing. What the hell is that? I don't even know how that happened. I mean, I do, but I'm kind of, you know, I'm saying it for effect. I do know. But, you know, the whole Scofield Bible, you know what I'm saying. But it's a unique phenomenon, and there's millions of Americans that have fallen for it. Like, Judeo-Christianity. I'm like, do you even know, first of all, what that means? Secondly, do you know the origin of that? Do you realize that 100 years ago, no one used to even use that term, or would have believed anything like that, you know? You've been so brainwashed, all right? But yeah, we do need a return to the old Greek ideals, you know, a resurgence. I mean, I'll end it with this. Oh, hang on. Wait, let me read this last bit and I'll tell you about the Renaissance. Renaissance. I think you pronounce it both ways. I like saying it Renaissance. No, I like saying it Renaissance. But anyway, the Renaissance. So the answer is obvious. The only question now is whether we can summon the wisdom and courage to walk through the door the Greeks built for us. Come on, people, we built this door for you. Walk through. It's free. You know, like Alexander, I mean, again, this is like my Greek bias coming through, but correct me if I'm wrong. The viewers, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe he's the only case in history that we know of where his people just followed him willingly because he led by example. He's kind of like a Aragorn. He did like an Aragorn in that case. Like really, like, you know, that incredible scene in the third movie, the Peter Jackson one, where they finally take on Sauron in the end, and where Aragorn leads the charge, and it's just such an inspiring, epic scene where you get goosebumps. That's literally what Alexander did for like 10 years straight, 12 years straight, you know. He was always leading the charge. You know, kings back in the day actually, they were, you know, the royal bloodlines existed for a reason because they were stronger. Their DNA was like superhuman almost. So they were chosen because of their physical strength in large part. And they usually used to lead battles. So Alexander was going around freeing people. A lot of people, I mean, maybe this is Greek propaganda that I heard from school and my Greek friends and family, but like what Greeks say about this often is that apparently wherever Alexander went, a lot of the people considered him a liberator, and they loved him because he was like what he did was a vast improvement upon the previous like theocracies and tyrants that ruled over these people in the regions, you know, that the regions he took over. And a lot of the people considered him, you know, they thought, okay, this guy is bringing us a better, like that monologue. I watched a bit of the the Oliver Stone Alexander film the other day, and that monologue at the end of what's his name, Anthony Hopkins. All right, he was the guy that was playing. He was playing Ptolemy. He was saying, you know, it was an empire of the mind. You know, we went wherever we went. You know, we showed people a better way. We elevated. Like, and it's, I know it sounds like a Greek pride moment, but I mean, Oliver Stone wrote that script, so he says it too. He's not Greek, so I mean, people. It's kind of objectively the case that's what Alexander and that's what the Greeks did, and that's what Hellenism, the term Hellenism, sprung out of that era. Okay. It was the Hellenistic age that Alexander spawned, basically. Okay, so it was an empire of the mind, as a Ptolemy character says at the end of the Alexander film, and it elevated wherever he went, wherever the Greeks went. They it's like the standard of living became better. Creating all these Alexandria, all these libraries, like the Library of Alexandria, the greatest thing ever, right? Everyone is mourning, every intellectual that's ever existed has been mourning the loss of that place for, you know, however long it's been now, 1600 years. When did they burn it down? It was the greatest crime against civilization, you know, against scholarship, against scholars ever. Destroying that library. What other empire did something comparable? Okay, like who went? Like the Mongols? Who? The Germans? The French? The British? Like who ever went to the trouble of creating something like the Library of Alexandria, where everyone is like I said, all the intellectual people that are in the know, they're like, that's the greatest loss that's ever happened from an intellectual, historical standpoint. Okay, so we need. And as I promised before, I mean, basically the Renaissance, what we call the Renaissance, was basically Greece 2.0. For those who don't know, a lot of people would know this, but if you don't know, basically the Renaissance happened directly because of when the Ottoman Turks took over Constantinople in 1453. There were a lot of intellectual Greeks who they had realized it ahead of time that this was going to happen, so they fled beforehand, and they went to Italy, and they took their ancient Greek manuscripts with them, which by that time did not exist anywhere else in Western Europe. And the Italians saw it. I think it was Venice, I believe. I don't remember which city they went to, but anyway, in Italy. And they read it. You know, people like important people like the Medicis and stuff like that. They financed a lot of these projects. You know, the mass printing of these ancient Greek philosophy books and stuff. And there was this explosion of ancient Greek philosophy and literature in Italy, and basically created the Renaissance. All right, so Renaissance really is just another name for a fancy name for saying Athens 2.0. Okay, it was a revival of Greece 2,000 years later. Okay, so now we need a third revival. Okay, or a second Renaissance. We really do. Okay, and that's what this guy's saying here. The only question now is whether we can summon the wisdom to walk through the door the Greeks built for us before Christianity poisons us again with its suicide pact with Yahweh. I mean, the Yahweh criticism is neither here or there. I'm not going to get into it much, but it does seem to be that there's some truth to the what the Gnostics say about Yahweh being not fake, but being kind of like a lower, like a lesser fractal of the ultimate prime creator of everything, of the multiverse. Yahweh seems to be like a smaller, like a smaller version of that, like a more localized version for Earth or for this solar system. And that's why he's a jealous God and all that stuff, and you shall not worship any other God except me. And he's quite violent and wanted a lot of like animals to be sacrificed for him, all that stuff. And I'm like, this doesn't sound like the guy that created absolutely everything in the universe. It's a little acting a bit like a child, you know. So anyway, but that's for another video. You know, so this guy reckons he's made his choice because, of course, he's a Greek chap. And, you know, it's unavoidable for him to, I mean, we're Greek, we have to side with the Greeks, even more so than other people. But you all need to take the side of the Greeks. I mean, it is the light and the way. I mean, what else, if you've got two choices, the ancient Greek way and Christianity / desert religion way, which door are you going to pick? Okay, the answer is easy. So yeah, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learnt something new, and if you didn't learn something new, I hope you at least were entertained in hearing something you already knew. And of course, like, subscribe, comment, please. Even if you disagree, comment underneath and tell me why you think I'm wrong, but do it respectfully, or you know, or whatever you want to say. And share it, send it to a friend who you think might benefit, and so on. Follow me on Twitter, of course. Check out my book, my novel. It's got a lot of good reviews. Not a lot of reviews, but it's highly rated. 4.4 rating on Amazon. So yeah, so I'll see you soon. I hope you enjoyed this one. Okay.